talk to you about what we've been doing. I think, how many here were in Mauritius? There's a few of you, I remember. Okay, so 5 or 6. So what I want to talk to you about today is kind of a new thing. It started about 6 months ago. We had just deployed our first site into rural Zambia, and one of the guys we got to meet there was talking to me about the fact that they had been convinced to buy solar for these different sites. And it turns out that they had bought this solar panels for their grain milling, and that they didn't use all their power every day. They weren't milling all of the time. And he's like, hey, could you put a Bitcoin miner here? And the truth is that he had enough excess power for maybe 1 or 2 Bitcoin miners to be there. But then we came up with the next problem, which is, go ahead, hit the next slide. It turns out there's 84 of them, right? So there's 84 locations across rural Zambia where they need 1 to 2 miners each. That is an impossible business model. Can you imagine a team's job is to drive around and help, repair, fix, operate these sites that only have 1 or 2 miners on them? You'll use up all of your profit in just the petrol it takes to get from one site to the next, right? It doesn't make any business sense to do that. So they're scattered, right? And scattered is a bad business model for what we try to do ourselves, right? As a company who's trying to do Bitcoin mining. But scattered is also just another word for decentralized, right? Which is both how Africa tends to operate and what Bitcoin mining wants to be, right? The whole point of Gridless was to help decentralize the Bitcoin network into Africa and push electrification further to the edges. And that's what this ends up being. It's a great opportunity. Next slide. So it's, it's just another word for decentralized. So the question then that had been sitting in our minds for 3 years was, how do you unlock Bitcoin mining for millions of small producers with intermittent, unpredictable power? There had to be something. There must be something that can be done, right? So it turns out, I looked up this data online on the FT. Installations under 1 megawatt made up 42% of all new solar capacity added last year globally. And that's mostly in Asia and Africa. So that means it's small solar that's being deployed all over the place. And we know this because if any of us ride out to the rural areas, we see a lot more solar than we did even 1 year ago, right? All right, next slide. So the challenge then became, how do you capture this? Maybe it's not even a business case for ourselves, but there's a way to capture this, right? So what you have today is you have your existing solar system. Somebody's invested money in putting this on their farm, their small industry, their home. The problem they have is that every day they're using that solar, but they're not using all of the battery power, right? The sun is up and it's shining. They have their batteries full. What happens? Nothing. So the solution then is, can we get a simple bolt-on box that will just turn that leftover energy from the sun into Bitcoin, right? And the system then had to see this as just another battery, right? It has to feel to the system, it has to be a very simple system. It's kind of a dumb system, right? And it has to just see this as one more battery. So once you fill up your batteries, it spills over into this other battery, right? That's just what we call a money battery, right? That money battery just keeps going until there's cloud cover or until those the real batteries start having a draw on them again. Then it turns off, okay? So that means there's 2 issues that you have to deal with. One is we still we can't do this as a business. 2 is, how do you make it work off of 12-volt solar? Right? So the whole big technical question for our team, and we're going to have some Q&A after this, is how do you make this 12-volt work? And how do you make it work for ordinary people? So next slide. So we started thinking about who has this solar and where it is, right? These are pictures that we took of the different solar we found around East and Southern Africa, right? But you know what? The problem isn't just here. It's everywhere. It doesn't matter if you're in Texas. It doesn't matter if you're in Kenya. It doesn't matter if you're up in Italy. And I can tell you today, those Juacali miners, there's already one running in Italy, and there's 2 running in Colombia. All right, next slide. So these businesses already buy their batteries and their solar. They buy their inverters. They have everything there already. What if they just brought a battery that stored Bitcoin instead of electricity? All right, next slide. Which is called duality. Next slide. The system is simple. You take 12 volts from your sun. When your batteries are full, it starts running this thing. I've already explained it. The whole point is that anyone should be able to build one. Installers everywhere can deploy it, and old hash boards find new life. So those who aren't miners probably don't realize that it's been a bear market for miners for about a year. The hash price that we earn has been lower than it's ever been before. And at the same time, AI, especially in the US, Europe, and Asia, is pushing Bitcoin miners off the shelves in data centers to make room for AI GPUs. Okay? So there's now pallet loads. I'm talking 40,000 miners, right? Sitting in a warehouse, and they have nowhere to go, right? So that means the price, supply and demand, right? That means that the price of miners has come down. So you can now buy some of these Bitcoin miners for as little as $100, which used to cost $2,000 3 years ago. So the prices have changed dramatically, which means the hash boards, which there's 3 hash boards in every miner, can be as little as $50 to buy, right? So you can actually make something of this as a business now. All right, next slide. So what does it actually look like? I ran through a model just to give you guys an idea. So let's work off the assumption that the hash price is $34, which it is today-ish. That your efficiency, which means the hash board efficiency of your miner, joules per terahash is 30. That's middling bad, just so you know. That's an old miner. And then your daily hours of operations, maybe it'll run for 6 hours, okay? So on a 15 kilowatt site, the cost to deploy, to build it, will be $1,500. That might even be a little less now. You're going to earn 5 cents per kilowatt hour. So your how much do you make in a month is 128, right? So your time to return on investment is 12 months. Okay. You can kind of get a feel for it. Now, what does it look like on a slightly larger one? You're paying more upfront, but the ROI is about the same. It's 1 month less. But you can start seeing what the numbers actually look like for your business. Why does this matter? You've already spent $5,000 or $10,000 on your solar and batteries. You've already spent the money. If there's a solar integrator who starts building these things, they can upsell you this box that will make you money even while you are even while you're off doing your normal work, right? And as soon as it's repaid itself, what does it start doing? Right, it's still making money, and it's making KYC free Bitcoin, right? Nobody knows you're making this Bitcoin. It's your Bitcoin going to your own wallet, right? All right, next slide. So this idea, it's bare bones, and it's built to go anywhere and be built by anyone, okay? All of these items are on the GitHub repo that I'll share with you in a second, that you can see exactly what's needed to go into it. You can see how it's put together. There's a whole standard operating procedure about how to do this. Next slide. It comes with a very basic software system that you just download. This runs on your phone, so you can just set it up on your phone. You point it at a Bitcoin mining pool. You put your Bitcoin wallet there, and you start making sats. There's not a whole lot of controls, right? But it works, and it's simple, which is what most people need. They don't need a complicated system. Next slide. All of this is available on this repo. You can find it. It has the equipment list. It has all of these schematics, the BOM, everything listed. It even has links to where on Alibaba or elsewhere you would buy the different components. So you can literally make this yourself. Should everybody make one of these themselves? Everybody who wants to, yes. But realistically, as a business, most people won't. This is where the solar integrators come in. I think that's the real advantage and the channel that it should go through. Go ahead, next slide. Did I miss one? Okay. Yeah. So this is what we think the future holds, right? Imagine thousands of small 12-volt nodes all over the world who can run their own miners. That's true decentralization, right? And it's a new ways to monetize your excess solar, even for smallholders. Bitcoin mining becomes the enabler when it becomes boring, right? When nobody thinks about this anymore, that's when it actually becomes interesting. So it's a lot harder for governments to ban Bitcoin mining when 500 farmers in the country use it for their own operations. That's what we want to see. We want to see Bitcoin mining distributed, decentralized all over the world by small businesses, not just big Bitcoin miners. All right, that's it for the talk. So thank you very much. So all of us who are Bitcoin miners, everybody else complains about the Bitcoin mining like sound. All of us were like, no, that's music. That's music. All right. So Blaise is one of the engineers on this project. Devita has been coming up to speed on it as well. I want to open up the floor to any questions about what we've built here. It can be on the business side. It can be on the technical side. We should be able to answer most of your questions. I think there's a mic running around too. So just raise your hand and they'll get a mic to you. Yeah.
What kind of batteries can you use for this? Is that just lead batteries or just
It's really any 12-volt batteries, generally solar, which are this is a lead acid, but it also works for LiFePO, the lithium polymer ones. But 12-volt rechargeable DC batteries.
One of the things that we've been working on is sometimes you have 48 volts in instead of 12 volts. So this system was actually built around that idea of 48 volts. Yeah, attempting to. So this is open source. It means that anybody can get in there and also commit to it, build them, commit to it. Right now we have so these are What's miners. The two big mining companies that most people know are Bitmain and MicroBT. MicroBT makes the What's miner. So the What's miner is what we use mostly in our sites. So that's what we've designed this around, that specific hash board. So that's what this is. We need other people to join in to get Bitmain hash boards also to be part of Juakali, because it's not yet.
Thank you very much for your good presentation. I just have one question. How long is the useful lifetime of those Bitcoin miners once you purchase them?
Yeah, so you're usually buying used hash boards. And I would assume, just from our own use cases, depends on how much they turn on and off, you'll get a couple years out of them. Enough time to get a return on investment. The idea too, though, is that when a hash board goes, you pop it out, throw it away, put a new hash board in, and just keep rolling. And if you find that you have more excess power than you originally built this for, you just slide more hash boards in. Like, the idea is that you should just be it should be modular, and you should think of it as a hash board approach rather than a Bitcoin miner approach. Which means just, I wish we had brought like a hash board to show everybody. It's just yeah. The other thing to think of is each hash board uses about a kilowatt per hour, right? So you're using a decent amount of power on just one hash board.
Thank you. So I have two questions. What kind of software are you using to manage to see maybe if there is a default in one of the miner? And another question is, you're contributing hashes to a certain pool. How do you calculate it, or you're actually mining from the entire block?
For the first question, it's a homegrown stack that just integrates with because we use Epic control boards with these What's miners. It just manually controls them based on sensed battery voltage. There's currently not anything necessarily for error sensing because that just wasn't in the initial design, but it's something that does need to be added. And then the initial configuration for this is to use Ocean Pool. So you're contributing to a pool and being paid on FPPS pay per share. instead of just solo lottery mining. But you can configure for that as well.
So you can change the mining pool. It's just we set a dummy one up there, or a set of a default one in there, so that people who don't know what they're doing yet at least have a pool, and then they just need to add a Bitcoin address. It makes it easier.
I'm Magak from Afribit Kibera, and I'll be honest, I'm not into so much engineering and tech, so not so much deep questions, but just a concern or just a query of where I come from in the Kibera circle economy. We try and avoid SATs going outside our circular economy. So if maybe we can have a possibility of, mining our own also as an addition to the circular economy, will be nice. So is it a possibility or a kind of to integrate with the people in the society if this, yeah.
So, listen, this is Gridless's way to give back to the community of Bitcoiners. We don't make any money off this either, right? Like, our whole point of doing this as an open source project was to help small holder farmers, small industry, and homeowners who have excess solar, really, but anybody who has excess solar, to monetize it and monetize it in Bitcoin, right? And because it is so good at real-time demand response, that it can do things that you can't do with other ways to monetize your solar. If you have spare solar in Kibra, then yeah, you could definitely do this. And there's no reason not to build one, right? You have some smart guys. You can buy components on Alibaba as well. And then, yeah, instead of just spending sats, you can earn sats. How are we on time? Okay. All right, we got time for one or two more questions, I think.
Just a question on the availability of the miners themselves. I know that in South Africa it's quite difficult to find secondhand miners. It's not the easiest thing in the world. How do you approach, or how do the people who are using this in Kenya and other places, how do they approach that? Where do they source the miners from?
Yeah, it's really, where do you source the hash boards from, right? So like the inside guts of the miner is really what you want. We obviously have spare because we do this for a living. So yes, in Kenya it's easier because even just through us we can sell you inexpensive hash boards, right? In other places you can buy them and have them shipped in, but I don't know. Depending on what the arrangement is in each country, it depends on what the cost is for import. I don't know what that is.
So in Kenya, you guys help source the hash boards for the people who build these?
Well, for a certain capacity level, yes, we can help source those. But it's not something that we don't make a business of it. It's that we have extra hash boards, so we'll sell them to you. But that doesn't mean that we're going to do that. We only have so many hash boards to do that with too. But we can help point people at the right direction and where to buy them. Yeah, because so one of these is a Bitcoin miner, right? That's one big block here is a Bitcoin miner. That's harder to import than man, I wish we had a screwdriver. We just pop out a hash board to show it to you. A hash board is just a thin board of chips, right? And that thin board of chips, you can stack them, put some styrofoam between them, and you can ship in, probably 6 to 8 of them in the same form factor as this. So remember, there's 3 in a normal miner. There's 3 hash boards inside of here, right? And if you were just packing them tight with some styrofoam between them, you could easily get 6 or 8 together in that same amount of space. And so you can actually you can ship in more for the same cost of shipping anyway, of logistics. And those are easy to get shipped in from China already today. Yeah, and cheaper on customs as well. Yeah, because when you're importing a component, that has a different price for duty than importing a whole computer. Okay, good. I think that's everything. Is that right? And Oken, I'm going to hand it back over to you. If you have any questions on this, we'll move this back to the Gridless booth. And Devita, stand up. So Devita and Blaise will also be there to answer any questions you have. Yeah, we'll be here tomorrow as well. So, feel free to ask and find out more, and then get on that GitHub repo and buy some components and build your own. All right. Thank you.